Skip, do the Warriors look better without Durant?
This is all I know for sure at this point in the season, still early in the playoffs, against a team without its, to me, its most important player, Jusuf Nurkic, who fractured his fibula. This is what I know. The Golden State Warriors are a very different team with and without Kevin Durant.
Okay.
To my eye, without Kevin Durant, they're better on the court and on my TV screen. That's all I know for sure. They're just better. But clearly, on paper, to your point, ongoing point, they're obviously better with what? One of the top 5 players in the world? How could you not be better with one of the top 5? Well, here's why. His presence is just so huge that he changes everything on the court. With him, it becomes slowly but surely Kevin's team. Without him, it clearly becomes, or goes back to being Steph's team. So what happened in game 1? Steph and Clay, well, let's do it backwards. Let's do game 2 first. Last night, Steph and Clay took the challenge without Kevin Durant. And they said, you know what? We can't let those 2 guys on the other team, obviously Damian, C.J. McCollum, score their brains out like they did in game 1. So we've got to lock them up and lock down on defense. And did they ever? Because those 2 guys got pretty much shut out last night, right?
It was 9 of 34 combined.
9 of 34. Wow. Boy, that's shocking compared to game 1, because in game 1, they just almost shot Golden State out of the gym, right? So what happened in game 1, they had Kevin Durant. So they obviously could say in game 1, let them score their brains out because we don't care because we got Kevin. And what did he do very effortlessly and almost quietly in game 1? 32 and 11? Really? So it changed the basketball game because in game 1 with Kevin Durant, 32 and 11, what was the score after 3 quarters? It was tied. So they weren't as good. They were having a hard time, even though he's got 32 and 11. The flow wasn't quite what it was, and definitely the defensive intensity wasn't nearly as furious as it was last night because the 2 guards for Golden State, Steph and Clay, had to say, we got to do this tonight. We got to show everyone we can play perimeter defense better than anybody in this league, and I think they proved that they could last night, which scares me for the sake of my San Antonio Spurs going forward. But the point was, last night, with no Kevin Durant, what was the score at the end of the 3rd quarter? It was tied the first time, right? And they ended up pulling away and winning by 12. But last night, they were up by 15 after 3 quarters. It was already going on the verge of a blowout, and they won by 29 points. So I can show you, just on a very small playoff sample size, game 1 with Kevin, not as good as game 2 without Kevin. Well, we saw it down the stretch of the regular season when Kevin was hurt. What happened? To your eye, didn't they just look, they looked even better than they did while they were winning 73 games? And I'm going to do this one more time, and I don't want to beat the dead horse on this, but I can give you 11 regular season with Kevin Durant losses that made me say, what? Golden State did that? Again, they open up losing by 29 at home to my Spurs. I'll give you that one. But then they go to the Lakers and lose by 20. And then they lost in double overtime to Houston at home, which shocked me at the time. Then they go lose by 21 at Memphis, and you say Memphis is scoring challenge, but they lost by 21. Christmas Day, we know what happened. They blew a 14-point lead at Cleveland, and I lost a case of Diet Mountain Dew over it. And then they blow a 24-point lead to the Memphis Grizzlies you say can't score. This was in Golden State, in Oakland. And they lost in overtime by 9 points to Memphis, really? To Memphis? Then they go lose at Miami. They go lose at Sacramento. Those are just shockingly bad losses. Then they lose by 32 at Denver. This is with Kevin Durant. And then even recently, after he came back, they lost by 6 at home to Utah. And that shocked me because they were really trying hard down the stretch. They won 15 of their last 16, but they had 1 loss with Kevin Durant to Utah at home. Well, that just screams better without, better without, better without. I'm sorry. I'm just going on what my eye test tells me, and paper tells you something else, and I can't argue with paper, but my eye test tells me better without.
Skip, you make some very valid points, and they are better without Kevin Durant in this series because this team is defensively challenged. And if CJ and Dame doesn't have it going, they're going to get blown out like they did. Because think about this, Skip. Last night, Steph and Clay were 12 for 35. They only had 2 players to shoot 50% from the floor or better. Zaza Pachulia, 5 of 8, and JaVale McGee.
Did he make all 7 of his?
He made all 7 of his shots. So if you play Golden State, if you play the Spurs,
Yep.
with no Kevin Durant, and Klay and Steph go 12 or 35, and only 2 players shoot 50% from the field, and that's Zaza and that's JaVale McGee, you winning that game? You're not beating San Antonio without Kevin Durant, with Steph and Klay going 12 or 35. That's not going to happen.
After what I saw recently in San Antonio, when my team was up 29-7 and lost the rest of the game 103-69, I might argue with that, but I'm still a prisoner of that moment.
Yeah, but Steph and Klay went bonkers shooting. I mean, Klay was 6 of 17, Steph was 6 of 18. Skip, 12 or 35, you're not beating San Antonio.
I get it.
You're not beating the Cavs.
You're right, but you're doing it projecting on paper.
Skip, they are better than Portland because Portland is challenged defensively. They got 2 guys that were colder than Steph and Klay. I mean, last night, Dame Lillard and CJ, Skip, they were cold.
But they combined to go 1 out of 7.
Skip, you said, well, how cold were they? I'm talking about sun rose with an overcoat cold on. You ever see like they were so cold one day in Glenville, Georgia, like about 1982 or 3, Skip. The sun rose with an overcoat, so you know it's cold, right?
Boy, that's really cold.
Yeah, but that's how cold they were last night shooting from the field.
Is that what they call like a 3-dog night?
Yeah.
3 dogs to sleep with you, right?
Skip. Man.
That's cold.
Yeah, in New York about 4 years ago, when that big storm hit, man, I saw statues with coats on. That's how cold it was. I did, Skip.
Wow.
But Skip, if they're playing Portland, a team that's challenged defensively, and you got 2 stars, and if those 2 stars don't be stars that night, you get beat by 29. Even though your 2 stars, now you got that MacGyver guy, Draymond, 6 points, 11, 12 rebounds, 11, 12 assists, couple of steals, a couple of block shots. He ain't a Swiss Army knife. He MacGyver. You know MacGyver will make anything. I mean, he got a toothpick. He got a car crank. He can crank a car with a toothpick. I ain't never seen nobody can do. Only one other guy, you know that guy up there, the king of Akron.
You know, I'm surprised MacGyver is still a thing. Even with the kids, everybody knows who
I know
MacGyver is.
MacGyver
It's old.
Skip, the man had
old. It's way before my time.
Man, he be catching
How
people
do
with
you know this
shoestrings,
stuff?
tying them up with shoestrings, and crank the car with a screwdriver.
You know MacGyver?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Didn't they remake it recently?
They did.
Oh, that's what it
Yeah,
was.
I like the original. But Skip, are they better without him now? Yeah, Skip, they can win. They probably can advance to the finals without Kevin Durant. Now, if I'm Golden State, I'm gonna rest him again. I'm gonna make sure I give him as much time, because what happened was, you remember, Skip, Steph Curry had that knee, and they brought him back, and then he missed 3 more games, and it lingered. They're gonna err on the side of caution with Kevin Durant.
Well, they have a chance now to rest him a lot, man. They could try wrestling him through game 3.
Yes,
you know?
I'm going to rest him game 3.
And see what happens.
And if we win game 3,
Rest
I'm
him some
definitely
more.
resting him game 4.
Yeah.
So I'm going to err on the side of caution to make sure he's healthy, because I know moving forward, in order for us to finish this thing off, we're going to need Kevin Durant. And remember, Skip, no KD.
No jewelry.
Rob Parker said that,
Yes,
right?
Rob Parker.
He said no Gronk, no hardware.
No Gronk, no hardware. It didn't quite. It
Well,
wasn't the same
all
rate.
I know for sure is, again, speaking strictly as a Spurs fan, I'm good if Kevin sits out another week or 10 days, because it's
You want
just,
him rusty.
No, well, it's just more time away from trying to figure it out. They still need to figure out how to close games, because I promise you one thing, I don't think they're going to win every game by 29 from this point forward.
No.
There are going to be a couple of games here and there, crucial games, that are going to go be dicey in the 4th quarter. And then you got to figure out, how do we close? And I can show you all these games in the regular season where they couldn't quite figure it out.